From the 22 News Broadcast Center, this is a Decision 2015 special program. Today, the Holyoke mayoral debate. And now, here's Rich Teddemer.
Good afternoon. 22 News is working for you as we let the candidates you'll see on the ballot on Tuesday, November 3rd, debate the issues. Today, it's the candidates running for mayor of Holyoke. Incumbent Mayor Alex Morse is opposed by Fran O'Connell. This is a Lincoln-Douglas-style debate where the candidates ask each other the questions with time for answers and rebuttal. First, each candidate has 1 minute for an opening statement. Fran O'Connell, you go first.
Thank you to Channel 22 for hosting this debate. Thank you to the viewers at home who have an interest in our city. I'm a third-generation Holyoker whose family has a long and illustrious tradition of public service. I founded O'Connell Care at Home in 1987 in Holyoke, and it will always remain in Holyoke, where it started. My company has now grown to 3 locations and has over 300 employees. I have spent the last 30 years of my life in this business. Over the past 30 years, I have gained valuable experience and skills that will allow me to be an effective mayor. Experience in finance, marketing, human resources, contract negotiations, and leadership skills are all valuable assets that I plan to bring to the city of Holyoke. This is my opportunity to give back to the city I love, and that is why I am running for mayor. I'm a businessman that loves Holyoke. I am not a politician. I will make decisions that are best and right and good for Holyoke, not based on what is best for my political career. I look forward to discussing the important issues that face our city.
Mayor Morse, your opening statement, please.
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone at home, and thank you, Rich, and thank you, 22 News, for hosting this important debate. This is a crucial election for the history of the city of Holyoke, and there are so many great things happening now in our community, and I think back to why I ran for this position in the first place, to put Holyoke on a path towards prosperity and success. We certainly do not need a new direction, because the direction that we're on is success in education, with more students graduating today than 4 years ago, success in economic development, with over $150 million of private investment happening in all areas of our city. Progress is happening in public safety, with historic decreases in crime over the last year alone and throughout the last 4 years. And today we have a renewed sense of purpose in our community. Day after day, there is more good news pouring in for our community, and I look forward to talking about the important issues affecting Holyoke throughout this debate. And while my opponent will continue to read off of his script, I'm going to continue speaking from the heart about how important this election is, and I ask for your support next Tuesday, November 3rd.
Once again, this is a Lincoln-Douglas style debate where the candidates ask each other the questions. The candidates have 30 seconds to ask a question, 60 seconds to respond, and then 30 seconds for rebuttal. And Mayor Alex Morse, you have the first question.
Mr. O'Connell, on public safety, you've criticized the chiefs in my approach, despite the fact that over the last 4 years, we have implemented community policing, bike and foot patrol, a canine unit, the mobile community policing unit, and open substations. Because of this, we've seen historic drops in crime. How can my record on public safety be one of your biggest talking points, even as crime drops to historic lows?
Well, the record is the record, and we continue to end up on the top lists of the most dangerous cities in Massachusetts. That's a fact. And it's also a fact that the Holyoke Police Department is 150 years old. And in the proud history of the Holyoke Police Department, there's only been 2 votes of non-confidence in the chief and the mayor of the city during that time. And that one just occurred several months ago with you, our mayor, and the chief. There's got to be a problem. The patrolmen do not do this haphazardly. They took a vote. They're serious about it. These are the men and the women of our police department that are out there every day trying to defend our city, trying to protect us from crime, and so I think we should take those people seriously. So regarding your community policing, I am a firm believer in community policing. I just think it needs to be done right. I would adopt the similar practices that Springfield has with their C3 community policing. Our community policing is haphazard. It stops and starts. Some days there are...
That's time, Fran.
Okay.
Rebuttal?
Yeah, again, I think this is another example of my opponent promising a new direction without any new ideas. You didn't hear a single specific about public safety, and he's right, the facts are the facts. And the facts are that over the last 4 years, we've seen crime go down 12%. And over the last year alone, violent crime down 7%, property crime down 14%, and burglaries down 34%. We need a mayor that's going to make tough decisions. We have a great chief in Jim Neiswanger, and that vote of no confidence that my opponent continues to talk about came in response to me firing an officer for taking out his gun. That's the type of leadership we need.
Friend O'Connell, your first question, please.
A big part of your job as mayor is being the chairperson of the school committee, yet you missed 45% of the school committee meetings since January 1st, 2014, including several key meetings in a row preceding the State Board of Education's takeover of our schools into receivership. This is just the most obvious example of your neglect, and it shows true lack of leadership on this most important issue. How do you explain your lack of attention to our schools, and also, please explain your repeated claims that you are only an honorary member of the school committee, which seems to suggest your presence at the school board meetings is not important.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to address this important topic. And again on this, the facts are the facts. And the facts are that over the last 4 years, we've seen the graduation rate go from 49% to 60%. When I took office, we had 1 public preschool program, and today we have 7 public preschool programs. Our third grade reading proficiency rates were at 13%, and now it's over 21%. And so that's what progress looks like. My opponent, again, is spreading misinformation. You'll probably see a commercial in the commercial break about a report card, just full of lies and mistruths. The facts are that I've attended nearly 80% of school committee meetings over the last 4 years. And for my opponent to insinuate that me missing a few meetings as mayor of the city with a demanding schedule attending city council meetings is the reason for receivership demonstrates a lack of understanding as to why we're receivership in the first place. And so we have a plan that has made progress over the last 4 years, and simply we're just not done yet. We're going to continue partnering with our receiver to improve outcomes for all students, and my opponent doesn't have a single plan or idea around education.
Rebuttal.
Well, it's shocking to me and a lot of Holyoke citizens that you repeatedly said you are the honorary chairman of the school committee. We all know that's not true. We have an amendment to the city charter naming you as mayor as the chairperson and full voting member of the school committee. This should not be news to you. As the mayor, you are the CEO of our city. You failed to assume your obligation to the city as leader of the school committee. You failed to lead by example, and you failed to lead by your evidence of absence at those critical meetings during the biggest crisis in our history of our public schools.
That's time, Mr. O'Connell.
Okay.
Mayor Morse, your next question, please.
Mr. O'Connell, I was recently endorsed by SEIU 1199, a consortium of personal care attendants. In contrast, in the past, you have shown that you have no interest in protecting the rights of your workers. The National Labor Relations Board found you at fault for violating the rights of one of your employees who was simply concerned about her unsafe working conditions. How can working people in Holyoke trust you to actually protect their rights with your track record of union busting? And would you be open to allowing the staff at O'Connell Care at Home to unionize?
First of all, I will answer again. The record is the record, and I am very proud of my business. I've been in business for 30 years and have done very well. We have 3 offices, 300 employees, and we are one of the highest, if not one of the highest payers of home health aides, and nurses in the Commonwealth. So I'm proud of that. Regarding the incident in 1991, this happened when there was a union activity that was going to affect the vulnerable people in our community. And I made a decision back in 1991 to not allow and not let people who are vulnerable at home, people who are in pain, who needed their medication, who were depending on that nurse to come into their home and take their blood pressure. I decided that for one day we were going to honor those people who are at home and protect them. So we did cross a picket line. We were found at fault. We paid our fine. And if I had to do it again, I would make that same decision. I will never, as a nurse, it was my obligation to take care of patients first.
Rebuttal.
Yeah, I've spoken to nurses in Holyoke who were around at that time who were advocating for patient care, for better patient care. The fact of the matter is, at the last debate, my opponent who admitted that only 27 out of his 300 employees actually were full-time benefited employees. That's just 9%. And so for Mr. O'Connell, his life and his business is about profits and not about people. I'm happy to have the endorsements of the United Food and Commercial Workers 1459, our bus drivers and DPW employees, and working people in the city of Holyoke.
Fran, your next question, please.
You have proposed a stormwater tax. On the record, you have said, we should implement a stormwater utility fee. We need to implement a stormwater fee. You also said, while my opponent feels this is unfair, he could not be more wrong. My record on your proposed stormwater tax is clear. I oppose it. We should collect unpaid bills, and we should find cost savings in our contract with the private wastewater treatment plant operator and implement other cost-saving measures instead of asking the taxpayers of Holyoke to pay more. What is your position on the stormwater tax?
Yeah. Another great question, and another mistruth you'll hear in the commercial from my opponent that is negative and desperate as we only have a week left until November 3rd. The facts are the facts on this as well. Our city auditor had recommended that the city council consider a stormwater fee to close the deficit in that budget. What my opponent doesn't talk about is our success in filling that gap. Number one, we have a plan to balance this year's budget without any new fees, including no stormwater fee. And there isn't even a stormwater fee before the city council at this time. And the facts are that over the last 4 years, my administration, the Morse administration, has collected over $1.7 million in back sewer fees. That is going right into the city to make sure we can keep costs low. And that's why we haven't seen a sewer rate increase in over 6 years, not once since I've taken office. We've put people's names in the paper. We've put liens on people's property. And we've also aggressively pursued the combining of the water and sewer department to make sure we can aggressively collect those payments.
Rebuttal.
Again, the record is the record and the facts are the facts. You proposed a sewer tax to balance your budget to the city council. You included the sewer tax fees in your report to the independent auditor regarding how you were going to balance the budget. The sewer tax proposal is yours. You proposed it, you recommended it, you own it. It was only when you started to lose supporters and votes did you start to run away from your rain tax. I oppose the rain tax. I am for collecting unpaid sewer bills. I am for evaluating the contract with our private sewer water management company.
Mayor Morse, your next question, please.
Mr. O'Connell, we know that you refused to speak about the incident where you made sexist remarks about a city employee. But as a father of daughters, owner of a company with a majority of female employees, and someone who claims to have never been accused of this before, how would you feel if someone made inappropriate and offensive comments about someone you know's body, and then refused to own up to it or apologize? In previous debates, you've raised the point that there are more important issues to worry about.
I pledge to run a positive and issues-related campaign. No matter how much the media and my opponent wants to distract me with mudslinging and negative campaigning, I will stay the course. Regarding the question of how I will treat female city employees if I'm elected, the facts are the facts, and the record is the record. My record is my life. I was raised by 2 women, my mom and my aunt. I have a sister, 3 daughters, and a wife. My record is my business. The CEO of my company is a female, as is my banker, my lawyer, my insurance agent. I have over 300 employees, with the majority of them being female. I have never been accused of being a sexist, and I have never had any accusations of discrimination. I treat people in my life with dignity and respect, and I will apply those same principles to my job as mayor. The record is real, and this record stands for something.
Rebuttal.
Yeah, I mean, again, the only one mudslinging in this campaign is my opponent. If you've seen that television ad, we've run a positive campaign. And if you talk to those folks at home and people in the city, sexism is a real issue for many people, as it should be. I don't have a high-priced marketing firm to craft statements for me or to print out my talking points that I can read word for word at an important debate where you want to hear directly from us. If Mr. O'Connell made that comment, he should own up to it, apologize, as I have for my mistakes over the last 4 years. And if he didn't say it, deny it.
Mr. O'Connell, your next question, please.
Okay. At the beginning of 2012, you claimed that you wanted to be Holyoke's chief marketing officer. You said the computer center would spin off into new companies and jobs for Holyoke. Big Y, Parsons Paper, the Victory Theater, and Lynch School would all be developed. You now claim credit for $125 million worth of public and private investment in Holyoke. Where is the economic development spinoff from the computer center? Where are those big tech companies that you were going to market Holyoke to? What happened to all your promises of economic development?
Yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better question to be posed to me today. It's not just $125 million of public and private. It's actually closer to $170 of just private investment happening in the city. Just yesterday, 216 Appleton, a huge mill, the old Far Alpaca Mill, directly across from the computing center, we announced a $38 million project for over 100 units of mixed-income housing with parking on the first floor, one of the biggest investments in the city's history, just announced yesterday. And that's because of the ecosystem we've created over the last 4 years. And that's just one project. Up the road this Friday, we'll cut the ribbon and open up 54 new apartments at Chestnut Park, the old Holyoke Catholic. Just last Friday, we broke ground on the $10 million project of Gary Rome. We just announced a $25 million project at the Holyoke Hotel project with Chipotle and Marriott, Fairfield Inn and Suites, and Applebee's. We've also worked with Marcotte Ford to make their expansion and the Canal Gallery as well, directly across that neighborhood, creating more housing, creating more options, and creating more jobs. And that's why Popular Mechanics named us 6th best city in the country for startups.
Rebuttal?
Most of the projects that you cite, the Canal Walk, the train station, Holyoke Catholic, and even Gateway City Arts, were not initiated under your administration. The Computer Center has not spun off businesses or jobs. What we do have is photo ops and press releases and no new jobs. A real model of economic development, all we need to do is look to our south to Springfield. They have $2.7 billion in new projects, with over 6,000 new jobs. That's the kind of...
That's time, Mr. O'Connell. Right now we're going to take a short 2-minute break and then more questions and answers for the candidates running for mayor of Holyoke. You're watching 22 News.
Live from the 22 News Broadcast Center, this is a special Decision 2015 edition of 22 News.
Welcome back to the debate for the candidates running for mayor of Holyoke. Incumbent Mayor Alex Morse is opposed by Fran O'Connell. They're right in the middle of a Lincoln-Douglas-style debate. Mayor Morse, do you have the next question?
Mr. O'Connell, you've loaned your own campaign $117,000 of your own money to run a campaign against me. This is more than 3 times the amount you offered for a parcel of land at Hamden and Pleasant that went on to sell for over $225,000. You cited to the Republican as the primary reason you got into the race in the first place. You refused to submit a bid that could be accepted and are now spending even more to run a smear campaign.
Question?
Will you admit that your campaign is not about Holyoke as much as it's about attacking me because you're upset that the city wouldn't sell you a piece of land for pennies on the dollar?
Well, first of all, I'd like to address the issue of me self-funding my campaign, and that's actually true. I made a decision early on that I wouldn't ask supporters to do something that I wasn't willing to do myself, and I thought it was important to raise funds locally and not be raising funds nationally and from Boston and from Northampton in order to finance a Holyoke campaign. Another major reason why I decided to self-fund my campaign is that I will be beholden to no one other than myself in terms of any political favors or contracts awarded once I become mayor. I think one of the cornerstones of my administration will be that being a business person and understanding what best practices are, I will be giving contracts and awarding bids to the best price and the best service, and I won't be awarding it to folks who are contributing to my campaign.
Rebuttal.
Again, I want folks to listen to this. Mr. O'Connell only offered $40,000 to buy the piece of property on Hamden and Pleasant, which he didn't address. He got cold feet at the end of the day, yet he's been willing to spend 3 times that to become mayor of the city. And so I'm not quite sure of his intentions on that. The facts are we've raised over $115,000, pretty much the same amount of money that he's given to his own campaign from actual people investing in our campaign and in our vision for Holyoke. And my opponent wants to bring investors to Holyoke, yet he can't get people to invest in his own campaign.
That's time, Mr. Mayor. Fran, your next question, please.
Let's talk about the secret deal you made with former city lawyer Heather Egan to buy her silence. As I've gone door to door over the last 4 months, this is an issue that is on most taxpayers' minds. It is truly the issue that won't go away. The taxpayers of Holyoke are outraged that you decided to pay off a former city solicitor with $45,000 of taxpayers' money and refused to disclose to the citizens of Holyoke or the representatives of the city council for reasons.
Do you have a question?
Yes. Please tell the citizens of Holyoke they're demanding an answer Why did you pay off the city solicitor, Heather Egan, with $45,000 of our tax money?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Mr. O'Connell. And it's a simple answer. I have to make tough decisions day in and day out, and not all of them are popular. But what I do know is that I, every single day, make decisions in the best interests of the city. This was a settlement to prevent litigation against the city that was advised by every attorney that I have worked with, both in-house and outside counsel as well. And so this was the best decision that has saved the city thousands of dollars in legal costs. It's similar to settlements that you'll see in any administration that has come before me, but my opponent has continued to harp on this issue because he has no plan, no vision for our community. I oversee a city of 2,000 employees, $130 million budget. Unfortunately, personnel issues will arise. And so for us, we're going to keep talking about the issues. And this former solicitor had left the city over a year and a half ago. And now that my opponent is running against me, he will continue to bring it up. But I'm happy to answer questions. And again, this is just another distraction.
Rebuttal.
Whatever went on there, we don't know. But the public is entitled to know how their tax money is spent. The mayor is the custodian of the taxpayers' hard-earned money. It's not his money to spend as he pleases. Under my administration, there will be no secret deals. There will be no secret settlements, and there will be no secret payoffs. My administration will be one of true transparency, not just sound bites.
Mayor Morse, your next question.
Mr. O'Connell, a few months ago, you released a so-called economic development plan. There wasn't a single proposal that my administration isn't already doing. On your campaign page, you called for a new receivership program for buildings in town, one that we have already implemented and expanded. So far, the biggest takeaway from your public statements is that you're not my biggest fan. So I ask, given that fact, and my administration has a proven track record, and that you've offered no new ideas, what should people expect a new direction to look like?
Well, my opponent keeps saying publicly that I have no plans. And I do have plans. My plans have been published on my website, O'Connell for Holyoke. It outlines economic development plans, a plan for education, a plan for public safety, and a plan for city management. I sincerely believe what a new direction is about is getting Holyoke on a sound financial ground. A city cannot do the good things it needs to do if it's always teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, and that's where we are right now. Our mayor, 2 years ago and 4 years ago, told us how great our educational system was and how he was going to be the education mayor, and now he's telling us that we're doing well economically. We still have 7.9% unemployment, and we have a 31.5% of our population living below the federal poverty level. That is not doing well. So the new direction is to run a city so that it's properly funded, have the proper personnel.
Mr. O'Connell. Rebuttal.
Again, my opponent had an opportunity to talk about his plan just now, but he didn't talk about that. He talked about me. And that's been his whole premise throughout this campaign, is talk about Alex because I have no new ideas, even though I'm promising a new direction. And so again, this election is really clear. Our city is not on the brink of bankruptcy. I've been happy to work with the council. Today we have a $13 million stabilization fund, an A1 bond rating. We are in great financial shape to move forward and to make those investments we've made over the last 4 years to bring people and businesses back to our city.
Fran O'Connell, your next question, please.
Let's go back to the schools. You ran 2 campaigns telling the voters that you would champion the Holyoke Public Schools, that you'd be an advocate and a strong voice for the students, teachers, and taxpayers. Yet despite repeated warnings by the state, you chose not to act, you chose not to lead, and on your watch, the Holyoke Public Schools were forcibly taken over by the state. In your defense, you say this didn't happen overnight, the schools were in bad shape when I took office. My question is this. If the schools were that bad when you first took office, why didn't you form a task force, much like the stakeholders group that was implemented by the state, to address...
Time. Mayor Morse?
Well, the simple answer is that we did, and that's why we've seen progress over the last 4 years, with our graduation rate going up 10%, with the expansion of our preschool programs. I've been very present in education. I was a member of the Dean Futures Advisory Committee to modernize those shops to make sure our manufacturers have opportunities to hire Holyoke young people and Holyoke residents. I am the chair of the school committee, but what my opponent doesn't understand is that the vice chair has always run those meetings, and I encourage folks to talk to him about my attendance compared to previous mayors. And you know, Governor Baker, Commissioner Chester, they have both made it very clear that this decision was their decision alone and the Board of Education. And in their endorsement of me this morning, the Springfield Republican made it very clear that these issues didn't happen overnight. And despite those challenges, we've embraced them, we've made progress, and we're not done yet. And right now, receivership is what it is. We have to embrace it as an opportunity to move forward.
Rebuttal.
Here are the facts on our Holyoke public school system. Our schools were forcibly taken over by the state for prolonged underperformance on his watch. We lost over 100 good teachers to other school districts as a result of the takeover by Boston. Our mayor failed to attend 45% of the school committee meetings during this critical time. Our students have been cheated of a proper education, our businesses have been cheated of an educated workforce, and our taxpayers have been cheated by the funding a broken system. I will work tirelessly with Dr. Zreich to regain...
That's time, Mr. O'Connell. It's time for closing statements, as a matter of fact. Mayor Morse, you go first.
Well, thank you again, Rich, and thank you at home for tuning into this important debate. I think you saw two very different candidates this afternoon. One candidate very scripted with talking points from market mentors, and one candidate that loves the city, has had a plan over the last 4 years, and has a plan to move our community forward. This is not a time for a new direction when we're making historic investments in education, in public safety, in economic development. My opponent has encouraged folks to drive around the city, and I encourage everyone to drive around the city. See the new train platform, the new canal walk, see the exciting things happen at Holyoke Catholic, the expansion of Gary Rome and Marcotte Ford. The city feels safer, it looks better. There is a sense of purpose and pride in Holyoke, and as somebody who was born and raised here, I couldn't be more proud to see people come together for the community that they love. I had never promised to turn Holyoke around in 2 years or in 4 years, and my opponent doesn't have to like me, but what he can't deny is the progress we're making, and I ask for your vote next Tuesday, November 3rd, to keep moving Holyoke forward. Thank you.
Fran O'Connell, your closing statement, please.
I'm Fran O'Connell, candidate for mayor of Holyoke. I am not a politician. I'm a concerned citizen of Holyoke who has the experience, education, and knowledge necessary to lead and serve the city we love and move us in a new direction. During this campaign, I have presented an 8-point plan for economic development and a detailed plan to improve education and a plan to implement sound financial policies for Holyoke. Like many of you, I am concerned about the future of our city, and this is why I am a candidate for mayor. I would like to thank you for the reception you have given me as I have campaigned across the city, and I respectfully ask for your vote so that together we can make Holyoke great again. Thank you.
Our thanks to Alex Morse and Fran O'Connell for participating today. Election Day is November 3rd. If you missed any of today's debate, you can see it again on wwlp.com. I'm Rich Teddemer. Have a good afternoon.
More people in Western Massachusetts get their news from 22 News than any other source.